Good morning and welcome to The Art of Composition. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. So I was online this morning and I was reading a few articles on a mainstream photography website. I'm not going to say which one, but I came across an article on dynamic symmetry. And not that I care about the article, but I was actually looking through some of the comments. And one comment really stood out to me, and the photographer wrote in commenting on this article about dynamic symmetry. He says, "This is new age mumbo jumbo." And my first thought was, seriously? It really showed me how much photographers don't know anything about composition. And I find it very disturbing because you see a lot of photographers that are questioning whether what they're doing is art. And I think a lot of that has to do with their lack of knowledge on design. Because when you understand design, you have a much better idea of what art is. So what I thought I would do today is show two paintings that are hundreds of years old. One is by Vermeer and one is by Caravaggio. And I'm going to show two systems of design, the 14-line armature and dynamic symmetry. The 14-line armature artists use a lot when they're drawing and painting. And dynamic symmetry is used by artists and photographers. So let me start with a painting by Vermeer. It's called The Astronomer. And I'm going to drop the 14-line armature on top of it and show you how he's placing his subject. And again, this painting was, I believe, in the early 1600s. So let me get started. All right, like I said, I'm just going to drop the 14-line grid. And I've demonstrated this hundreds of times on my website. Artists that use this system of design will find it much easier to learn than dynamic symmetry, because it's repetitive, and I can drop this 14-line grid without even thinking about it. Once you've done it a few times, it becomes second nature. And to learn more about this, you can pick up the book Classical Painting Atelier by Juliet Aristides, or go on my website, dynamicsymmetryart.com. I talk about both systems of design heavily. And I also have many examples of how the artist can use this on the canvas. As I'm drawing this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about photographers and some of the things I see online. I find photography websites interesting because they're super saturated with information about camera gear, but information on actual art, how to create art in photography, is pretty much non-existent. So that was one of my goals with my website. The main goal of my website is to change how artists create art, because over the past 100 years or so with the modern art movement, artists and photographers have been told to create art using their feelings without any knowledge on classical art and design techniques, and that always results in failure. You have to have an understanding of what you're doing to create a successful work of art, and that's what the Atelier movement is about. And you can learn more about the Atelier movement on the website, the Art Manila Center. All right, so this is a 14-line grid, and I created this when I was talking, so it gives you an idea of how second nature this becomes. All right, what I want to show is just how Vermeer is using a few of these lines. If you notice here in this diagonal line, he's placing the angle of the subject right here. Also notice this division right in the center. It lines up with this significant horizontal line here. And that's derived by driving a horizontal through intersecting diagonal lines. But also notice how this diagonal line is following the path of his arm. And you can find more divisions. I'm not going to break this down completely, but I'll just show a few more. I can drop a horizontal line here where these two diagonal lines meet. It gives me the top of this ledge. And I can drop another horizontal line here where this series of diagonal lines meet, and it gives me the table, the edge of the table. And I'll just bring that to here. And if I drop a horizontal line here, where these two diagonal lines meet right here. It gives me the bottom of this rectangular shape. And it continues on with this throughout this painting. And my point is, this is how Vermeer is placing his subject. He's not randomly going to the canvas and saying, oh, it looks good here or it looks good there. It doesn't work that way. And you can learn more about this example in the book, like I said, Classical Painting Atelier. So let me go to the Caravaggio, which is designed using a Root 3 dynamic symmetry rectangle. When you lay the Root 3 grid on top of this painting, I believe it's called, I think it's called Madonna of the Pilgrims, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on it. But what I want to show is how he's using some of these lines. For example, here, you have this diagonal line right here. Madonna, her face is placed right here on that diagonal line. And also notice here, you have the gazing direction going down. This diagonal line is being played off in the profile of the face, but the dominant diagonal line right here, Caravaggio is placing this figure right on that diagonal line. And you can tell what he's doing right away. It's very obvious. You have a dominant horizontal line here as well, and it's falling right under the arm of the child. And you could continue to break this down. For example, I could drop a vertical line where this horizontal and this diagonal line meet right here, and it'll give me this vertical right here. And like I said, you can continue to break this down, but my point is today, well, there's 2 points. There are many systems of design, and none of this is New Age mumbo jumbo. If you're a serious photographer that wants to learn how to take better photographs, you have to understand design. And it's not New Age mumbo jumbo. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, as always.